In January of 2000, leaders in Charlotte, North Carolina invited their favorite son, Reverend Billy Graham, to a luncheon in his honor. He initially hesitated because he had symptoms of Parkinson, but one of the leaders said to him, "Please come. We don't need you to give some big address. We just want to honor you." And he said, "Okay, I'll come." And he showed up, and I'll just read the rest because it's a wonderful little story. After wonderful things were said about him, Dr. Graham stepped to the rostrum. And he wanted to share a story with the crowd, and he said, "I'm reminded today of Albert Einstein, the great physicist, who this month has been honored by Time magazine as the man of the century." Reverend Graham also shared that Einstein was once traveling from Princeton on a train when the conductor came down the aisle, punching the tickets of every passenger. When he came to Einstein reached in his vest pocket, and he couldn't find his ticket. So he reached in his trouser pockets. It wasn't there. So he looked in his briefcase, but he couldn't find it. And then he looked in the seat behind him, and he still couldn't find it. The conductor said, "Dr. Einstein, I know who you are. We all know who you are. I'm sure you bought a ticket. Don't worry about it." Einstein nodded appreciatively, and the conductor continued down the aisle punching tickets. And as he was ready to move to the next car, he turned around and saw the great physicist down on his hands and knees looking under his seat for his ticket. The conductor rushed back and said, "Dr. Einstein, please don't worry. I know who you are. No problem. You don't need a ticket. I'm sure you bought one." Einstein looked at him and said, "Young man, I too know who I am. What I don't know is where I'm going." Classic story of the absent-minded professor. Well, having said that, Billy Graham continued, "Do you see the suit that I'm wearing? It's a brand new suit. My children and my grandchildren are telling me lately I've gotten a little slovenly in my old age. I used to be a bit more fastidious. So I went out and bought a new suit for this luncheon and for one more occasion." Do you know what that occasion is? This is the suit in which I'll be buried. When you hear "I'm dead," I don't want you to immediately remember the suit I'm wearing. I want you to not only to know who I am, but also to remember this: I know where I'm going. And that leads into our message today. Because Reverend Graham and Dr. Einstein were human beings. They had their flaws and their foibles and so forth. But periodically they were dialed into a greater truth, a greater oneness with the universe. And I've been touched and moved and inspired by this last 4 weeks of facilitating the Quest material. The writers of the course, Richard and Mary Alice Jaffola, speak of an identity that lies behind the identity that we all have in this room. They point to something greater, something more connected with the universe. And especially in this last Wednesday night, the chapter was entitled, "Who Am I? Who Am I?" And they make it plain to the reader the distinction between who we are and what we are. Who we are is the personality, according to this text and this teaching. Who we are, they say, is our persona. Persona comes from the Latin, which means mask, which points to being a character in a play. And that we are all characters in a play. But behind the mask, behind the persona and the personality, which is so vital, really, relatively speaking, to our making our way in this lifetime, to have a pleasant personality, an integrated personality. But they point to that which is at the nucleus of self, which is what we are. And that is the distinction that I would like to make today between image and essence. The personal I is the personality. And what I pointed to during the meditation was the I am. Our individuality in spirit, that which inspired and overshadowed Billy Graham and Albert Einstein in their work and service to humanity. They put their personality aside and they allowed the essence to move through the image, to help and serve the human family through the I am. The I am identity. And in the book of Psalms it says, "Be still and know that I am God." And that is the whole point of meditation and prayer, is to be in touch and to be in alignment with the holy I am self. We think that meditation and prayer may be just for relaxation and stress management, but that's only one level. As we proceed in our depth and in our breathing and in our inner labyrinth journey into the center of self, what is the I am self, the saving grace of our lives. At least it has been for mine. Whenever I've been troubled in this life, thank God I've had the grace to remind myself, go within or go without. In the quest work, they also point to or provide a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, the great transcendentalist of the 19th century, that was an influence to Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founders of this movement. Mr. Emerson said, "Man is a piece of the universe made alive." And I would be more inclusive by saying, we, man, woman, all of us, are a piece of the universe made alive. Can we claim that? Or are we finding ourselves wanting in the personal I, that forgets who we are. And it is indeed a journey that you and I are taking to be in divine remembrance, to allow the personal I to gradually and gracefully be spiritualized by the I am. So it's not an either or, it's a both and. You and I are part of the universe, a piece of the universe. And the universe is spirit. The universe is spiritual. Life is spiritual. And you and I are here to remind ourselves of that. So we are on our journey. We are on our quest. We are on our hero's journey to remember who we are, and that the egoic mind, according to the quest work, and I do agree with it, is much like the analogy of the egg, an eagle egg. That within the egg is the pure potential, the embodiment within it is filled with the spiritual DNA to be made into an eagle, a great soaring bird that when we see it in the sky, and I probably see 50 of them every Sunday or every time I come into the center, because there's a big sanctuary of them down in the Delta area where I live. But in our personal I, oftentimes we feel trapped within the egg. It seems limiting, but it is also formative and helpful, or else that which lies within, the chick that has this divine imprint, would never break through and manifest into an eagle. And it is a matter of divine timing and as to when we will break through the egg of our own understanding. But it is a divine imprint that all life mature in this way. And it is so for us. We are also in this process. I wanted to share with you something from a spiritual teacher that I feel is one of the greatest initiatory teachers that we have been blessed with in the 21st century. And I believe his teachings will continue throughout this entire century, going back to and fro. And Mr. Eckhart Tolle. And you could say, well, I read this book years ago. I don't really need to be reminded. I've moved on. Oh, really? Have we? We may intellectually say, I read that. Yeah, it was good. Funny little man. But listen to these words, because they are as alive today as they were when they were written in 2004. You may not want to know yourself because you are afraid of what you might find out. Many people have a secret fear that they are bad, but nothing you can find out about yourself is you. Nothing you can know about you is you. While some people do not want to know who they are because of fear, others have an insatiable curiosity about themselves and want to find out more and more. You may be so fascinated with yourself that you spend years in psychoanalysis. Delve into every aspect of your childhood and uncover secret fears and desires, and find layer upon layer of complexity in the makeup of your personality and character. And after 10 years, the therapist may get tired of you and your story and tell you that your analysis is now complete. Perhaps she sends you away with a 5,000-page record. This is all about you. This is who you are. As you carry the heavy file home, the initial satisfaction of knowing yourself gives way quickly to a feeling of incompleteness and a lurking suspicion that there must be more to who you are than this. And indeed there is more. Not perhaps in quantitative terms of more facts, but in qualitative dimension of depth. Knowing yourself is being yourself. And being yourself is ceasing to identify with content. And content is our story. And we say sometimes, that's my truth, and it's sticking to me. Well, the spiritual path is one of tremendous opportunity. It's an opportunity for great letting go, release, questioning our most cherished beliefs that we cling to as our story. And you might say, well, just leave me alone. These are my beliefs. This is what I hold as my truth. Don't mess with me. Don't push. I certainly do not want to do that. Well, what I do desire to do with all of us, including myself on a daily basis, is ask, are my most cherished beliefs about life, about God, about anything, are they really working for us? Or are we allowing a greater container to be filled with something more dynamic, expansive, powerful, true, loving, peaceful? So this is a process of being quickened. And I was suggested of me the last week or so of someone that said, perhaps we should do more affirmations. Unity is a faith tradition with the spoken word, the logos, the spoken, and using the I am to form, to manifest from the realm of the unmanifest, the realm of divine potential into manifestation. This is our co-creative capacity as children of God. And sometimes we say, well, I better be careful what I say because they're formative. Well, let us be full of care of what we say. And say it with conviction, strength, groundedness. I am part of the universe, quickened by divine spirit. Let's say that together. I am part of the divine universe, quickened by the Spirit. I encourage you to say these things using the I am, life-affirming truth through the spoken word. And if your mind says, this doesn't mean anything, you can say, thank you for sharing. But we're speaking from a place within ourselves that is not the I personality. It is coming from the place of the I am, great being, self, that we all are, all equal in truth. Perhaps not in demonstration, manifestation, but in truth. We're all equal, all pieces of the universe. I mentioned Eckhart before, and he says, you cannot fight against the ego and win. We cannot fight against the personal voice in the head that says, oh, that's just not true. What's this minister trying to convince us of? I know who I am, but do we know what we are? That is the big question. Moving from personal I to I am is the only real pilgrimage that you will ever take in your whole life. You may go to Jerusalem or India or Machu Picchu or any sacred place on the planet. And that's all great. Have a good trip. But remember, the only real pilgrimage is moving from personal I to the I am, and allowing the I am to love you, and to have a divine marriage. A divine marriage. I am completely convinced that true satisfaction on this earth plane can only be realized and experienced through a direct experience of God within the I am. Who we are is relative to space and time. What we are is a lifelong discovery. Thank you. Bless you.